Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall faces criticism for his Safe Downtown initiative. Local community leaders say it stigmatizes people facing drug addiction, mental health, and homelessness issues. Hi, I'm Deepak, and you are watching Simcoe Community Media. Last Thursday at Meridian Square in downtown Barrie, Mayor Alex Nuttall announced plans to combat illegal drug dispensaries, increase alleyway cleanups, and provide support for individuals through the Barrie Transit Terminal.
In terms of what the City of Barrie is doing to ensure that we have a safe, clean, and vibrant and thriving downtown, we are currently looking at all options to stop illegal drug dispensaries here in downtown Barrie. There are currently what I will refer to as businesses operating that are not in line with our laws. And we are going to look at every avenue to ensure that they cease activity, they cease drug dealing in downtown Barrie.
He also aims to create a safe, welcoming, and thriving downtown, promoting cultural events and business opportunities. However, talking to me, former Barrie councillor and harm reduction worker Keenan Aylwin voiced significant concerns over the lack of solutions to the city's safety issues.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't see very many solutions proposed at all to the issues that our city is facing in terms of safety concerns. If the mayor wanted to, he could have announced his support for a supervised consumption site in the city. We know that our friends, our neighbors, our family members are dying at an alarming rate due to the toxic drug crisis, and we need harm reduction services to save people's lives and connect them to vital services. He could have taken a stance in support of a supervised consumption site. He didn't. Instead, he pointed fingers, he painted with a broad brush, demonizing people who need support in our community, and I think that's not what the residents of Barrie deserve.
Harm reduction manager at the Gilbert Centre, Sarah Tilley, told me she appreciated the focus on safety and the mention of engagement with social services, but she was troubled by the lack of actual social service participation in the event and the discussion.
I'm also really concerned that there was no conversation about how people who are experiencing homelessness, who are using drugs, are going to be kept safe. There was a lot of discussion about safety as a whole, but one of the things that we know is happening right now, one of the biggest safety concerns in our community in Simcoe, Muskoka, and Barrie particularly, is the amount of overdose deaths we're seeing as a result of unregulated and toxic drug supply in our communities. Death is probably one of the worst safety concerns I can think of, and I didn't hear any conversation about what harm reduction measures we're looking at putting into place.
Mayor also answered a few questions from me. Following is the video of the press conference, including my interaction with the mayor, speeches from the police chief, and interviews with Sarah Tilley, Keenan Aylwin, and Simcoe County's General Manager of Social and Community Services Division.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today, this beautiful day in downtown Barrie. This is our public square we have here, both Memorial Square and Meridian Place. And I want to say thank you to all of our speakers and guests who've joined us from Barrie Police, from the County of Simcoe, the BIA, and organizations throughout our city. Today is being brought to you to communicate a few messages. The first and most important message is that we are eliminating the silos that exist between the various services here in the city of Barrie. We are ensuring that all of our services work together, whether that's police, the County of Simcoe in terms of our social services, the BIA in terms of taking care of our downtown, and we are putting the well-being of individuals at the forefront in this city. We're ensuring that our downtown is a place where folks can feel safe, they can feel secure, they can visit, they can partake in commerce, they can seek out help if needed, and really just reinforcing what the city of Barrie is all about. And it's a place where you can find hope, you can find opportunity, you can grow your business, you can enjoy a breakfast, you can come down and enjoy the many cultural events that will take place right here at Meridian Place throughout the summer. The city of Barrie, I'm going to speak to some of the things that we are doing. Before I do that, I do want to recognize we have Councillor Nagusi here. We have Deputy Mayor Robert Thompson, who's also a member of our police board, and I'll leave it to the chief to introduce our other police board member here as well, and any of the county staff. If James, if you could go over that as well for us. In terms of what the City of Barrie is doing to ensure that we have a safe, clean, and vibrant and thriving downtown, we are currently looking at all options to stop illegal drug dispensaries here in downtown Barrie. There are currently what I will refer to as businesses operating that are not in line with our laws, and we are going to look at every avenue to ensure that they cease activity, they cease drug dealing in downtown Barrie. The second thing that we're doing is we've invested with our Barrie Police Service. I'm going to let them go into that a little bit more because it's important that they talk about the details and the effects these changes are already having on our downtown. We have increased the number of cleanups of our city-owned alleyways, ensuring that any debris, whether that be related to drug activity or perhaps from buying a coffee, is cleaned up on a daily basis for all of the city-owned alleys throughout the city's downtown. We have implemented the end of the CNC transfer to the Barrie Transit Terminal, offering the opportunity for individuals to get home, to get closer to help, to closer to supports if they choose to do so. That has been a huge success to date. Over 230 individuals in our first 6 months have chosen to get closer to home and not be stuck on the side of the road in a city they don't know, which is Barrie. And we're continuing to activate our downtown to ensure that our city centre is a place where all residents are welcome, all residents are safe, all residents are able to go about their business. There's so many events that are happening this summer. You know, the BIA is going to talk about the open air Dunlop, but you think about the air show that's going to be down here, Kempenfest, all these beautiful opportunities for the people of Barrie to enjoy our waterfront, to enjoy our public squares here, and to enjoy shopping in our downtown. In ending for me, before I turn it over to our partners, I just want to say thank you to all of the organizations that have come together to try to ensure that our city centre is a place that is safe and can be visited by anybody at any time. So to the county, to the Barrie Police Service, certainly to the BIA, thank you for all the work that you're doing, and thank you for that which you'll continue to do going forward. And again, the message to be received today is this, is that our social services, our police department, our city, and certainly our BIA are going to walk hand in hand to help individuals who need help and to ensure that we have a safe, vibrant, and thriving downtown going forward. I'm going to ask Chief Rich Johnson to come up to say a few words, and Chief, you'll then pass it on down through the list there. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
Morning, folks. I represent public safety in our wonderful city. Our role here today is, and I will echo His Worship's comments in terms of our role among one of many. We are moving forward together, working with our partner agencies and other stakeholders within our city to address the issues that we have downtown and those feelings that surround those. Our guiding principle as an organization from the Barrie Police Service is that every single person should feel safe in their surroundings, no matter where you are and what your housing circumstances are, where you find yourself in life. Our role is to ensure that everyone is able to enjoy our downtown and to do so without concern for their safety, concern for stepping on something that would cause them great harm. Our intent here is to play a role with our partners. So on behalf of the Barrie Police Service, our participation will include a number of things. Increased presence and visibility. You'll note some of our officers in their very highly visible clothing, purposely so. That is what you're going to see more of, because we hear what our community members are saying to us. You want to see us more, you feel safer when we're around. We are here to help. We legitimately are. And the way we convey that is being here engaging with you, talking with you, and showing you that we're here to help. Our hours will be extended. We recognize that when we're around, people feel safer. So the longer we're in the eye and very visible, the longer people feel safe. Of course, 24/7, every day of the year, no matter the weather, we do respond to emergencies, absolutely. But this very overt, visible presence is here for a reason. Our purpose is to reduce harm, the harm from crime. But it's also address social disorder. And those are those feelings and challenges we face with things that make us feel unsafe. Again, we know our presence addresses that. If you see us, you're feeling safe, and that's what we're looking for. So we're going to play our role, and we're going to participate because we know it's important. Because if our community members feel safe, they're going to come downtown and they're going to enjoy this wonderful city. And it is a wonderful city, folks. With that, I'll pass it along here. BIA Executive Director, Craig Stevens.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Craig Stevens. I'm the Executive Director for the Downtown Barrie BIA. The Downtown Barrie BIA represents over 300 local businesses and over 200 local property owners. I emphasize that, be it that they're local. There are friends, there are family, there are neighbors, there are local communities. And so having a vibrant and exciting downtown is so important, as has been mentioned so far. And I think we can all relate to that. I think anytime we travel, whether it's to another community or whether it's abroad, we seek out the main street. We seek out the center of that city to really understand what our community is all about. And so this partnership means so much. It brings all of the essential services together, all the essential players together to address the challenges that we do have in our downtown. And the BIA can play a role in that. As literally eyes on the street, we can be a conduit to make sure that we all feel safe, that we all get the help and assistance that we need, and that we have a vibrant downtown. And I think partnerships mean great things. This space, Meridian Place, is a great example of a fantastic partnership that took a piece of property that has a 200-year history and acknowledged the history within this property, but brought it to a point where we can appreciate it for another 2 years and brings the community together. And so again, looking forward to this partnership moving forward. Specifically, the downtown, in terms of what we are doing, is that we, within the public realm, are looking at what we call our nooks and crannies, our alleyways, our transitions, our around the corners, and making sure that they're inviting, that they're beautified, that they're lit, and that they're safe. And if you take a travel around our downtown, you'll notice some pretty impressive murals. That's been a big initiative over the last couple of years. World-class artists are putting up their murals on walls that connect our business owners, that connect our community, and bring it all together to make it a more inviting, comforting place. Further, our patio program. So this today is a great day for it. Patios bring activity out into the streets. It brings activity inside to outside that we all want to be part of. And so our patio program literally brings hundreds of people into our streets on a daily basis. Events, as was mentioned, our events bring people to the downtown. Really excited to announce today that we have a supplementary press release with our music lineup for our open air events that include Juno award-winning performers as well as local up-and-comers. And so I have that available for those who would like one that addresses our music lineup that, again, will bring thousands and thousands of people down. And further, again, just the partnership. The business owners, we can play a role. We're looking forward to playing a role and being a productive part of this partnership. And again, we thank everyone that's come on board for this.
We also have with us today Mayor Leduc from Bradford West Gwillimbury. Mayor Leduc is representing the County of Simcoe. So, Mayor, over to you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, for leading this initiative throughout the county. Good morning, everyone. As Mayor Nuttall said, my name is James Leduc. I'm the Mayor of Bradford West Gwillimbury. I'm also a county councillor, and I'm the chair of the Human Services Committee that oversees the social services and community services within the region. On behalf of Warden Clark, County Council, and the County of Simcoe, I want to express our gratitude to the City of Barrie and all our partners here today for the opportunity to join you for this important community awareness initiative. Today's event serves as further acknowledgement of the change, growth, and community impacts that we're seeing across Simcoe County. But it is also a demonstration that our local, regional governments, emergency services, and our partners are not sitting idle. In 2023, the county passed a 10-point plan to address chronic homelessness and poverty reduction in Simcoe County. We've made significant funding increases to the cities and other communities across the county to expand programs and bring initiative, urban-based solutions to Simcoe County. A few of these programs include One Community Safety Solution, a safety ambassador program, which work directly with the BIAs to support both businesses and those living unhoused. More funding for warming and cooling centers. Greater access to food programs. And on the housing side, we'll soon be starting a $217 million investment to create more affordable housing options in the city through our Rose Street Affordable Housing Development and many other initiatives. Our General Manager, Mina Fiaz-Bagat, will share more information about these programs shortly, and we thank his team for their continued leadership and innovation. I'd also like to thank Mayor Nuttall, Barrie Council, and Barrie Police, the Barrie BIA, and all other partners for your continued efforts. By working together, we can continue to make an impact. So thank you very much. I turn it over to Mina.
Thank you, Mayor Leduc, and thank you, Mayor Nuttall, for having us. My name is Mina Fiaz-Bagat, General Manager, Social Community Services. And as Mayor Leduc shared, the County of Simcoe is responsible as the System Service Manager for homelessness and housing and other social services across the county, including that here at the City of Barrie. Over the last year, the provincial and federal governments have invested significantly in this region, allowing us as a System Service Manager to enhance services. Our goal is to always be data informed and to look at where the needs lie and invest significantly and strategically in those needs. Over the last year, we've invested over $11.5 million here at the City of Barrie, focused on homelessness and homelessness support services. This included a doubling of our outreach and street outreach programs that are dedicated to supporting those experiencing homelessness outside and referring them and bring them inside. This includes the Busby Centre as well as Youth Haven, a youth-based outreach program. As well as we've mentioned our street ambassador or safety ambassador program that can to try to engage people to other references and referral areas. Thereafter, we've increased emergency shelter beds, warming and cooling center programming, overnight services in order to ensure that there's enough space in the system to accommodate across the county, including here at the City of Barrie. And finally, investing in a rapid rehousing initiative that focuses on housing outcomes, allowing people to participate in a 120-day program focused on housing. The first of its kind was launched last year here at the City of Barrie and had an 88% success rate of permanent housing outcomes. We've invested in deeper subsidies, something we've heard clearly that is needed in order for people to gain access to housing, increased the subsidy level to over $800 per month per subsidy. Accordingly, we are confident that if we continue to work, continue to understand and read the data, we'll be better informed on how we're able to continue to invest here in the City of Barrie and throughout the County of Simcoe in our homelessness outcomes. Thank you.
Mina, it wouldn't be an announcement in Barrie without protesters, so I welcome all of the work that the county is doing, and I think it's certainly important to recognize that the measures that are taking place from the county, from the police service, from the BIA and the city, they're not done, not only not in silo, but they're not done with just the means provided in each organization. The provincial government last year, Mina, correct me if I'm wrong, it was about $10.5 million in new funding, in homelessness prevention funding for the County of Simcoe. The federal government has also stepped up to the plate, extending the period of funding as well as increasing funding towards homelessness prevention. We are working with all levels of government to ensure that the services that are necessary here to help those who are facing homelessness are there. In fact, the City of Barrie last year stepped up under this council more than any other council in the history of our city to help address homelessness and provide the necessary resources. A $1.65 million investment over 2 years, which is helping with the food program through the county, which is helping to ensure that these services are able to meet the demand, and hopefully for those who are facing addictions, help them find help. For those who are facing mental health challenges, helping them find supports as well, and certainly finding ways to get housing to market, like Rose Street and the many other programs that Mina has just announced and addressed. I'm going to now open it up to questions from media, and you're welcome to ask either myself or other speakers today, and we'll certainly answer any of those and move on. Any questions from media here? Well, then it was a really good press conference and we answered all of the questions.
So just a question about the one community solution. I have noticed other community organizers brought to my attention that they go around just with a big pick. They don't have water, they don't have food, they don't have any resources. Many times, they film, people living, whoever they can profile in any way, and then they share that information with the police department. So what kind of support they offer if they don't have any resources with them?
Thank you for the question. One Community Solutions is a community safety-based ambassador program. It is not a street outreach organization. Street outreach organizations are the ones that offer support, like whether it's survival support of water, food, different types of needs that are required, clothing, things like that, in order to have and to continue to build relationships with people experiencing homelessness, to allow them to come inside or to access services. One Community Solutions engages people who are maybe participating in what could be considered unsafe or unhealthy behavior for themselves or for others, and gives them referral points of where they can access services, including daytime drop-ins, overnight shelters, food programs, library programs, all funded by the County of Simcoe. They do not take pictures of individuals, they take pictures of hazardous waste paraphernalia, and they do picking and refuge collection of that paraphernalia, so someone like a child or a pet or somebody walking on the street doesn't step on something that's been discarded incorrectly. That's one aspect of safety. Other aspects of safety, essentially speaking, is just engaging people who might be deeply encamped and not accessing services in inclement weather, making sure that those people know that there's services being offered through outreach or through daytime or nighttime programming. So yeah, like this program's been in base. In fact, I think last year there was 8 incidents of saving someone who has maybe experiencing an overdose or a health reaction by administering a naloxone kit or naloxone intervention. So oftentimes it's an extra set of eyes to help engage people who might need help or support. It's voluntary. If someone approaches them, they answer questions. But if not, they continue on to just continue to collect refuge and do all of the other safety issues or activities.
Yeah, you mentioned about the library. You mentioned about the library, and many describe the library since Mayor Nuttall's first address at the council. He kind of targeted library and the social services that they offer, to make the children safe, not to have those social services at the library, and also the architecture at the library is considered as hostile. Outside there's a loud music, so people don't hang out. Outside the library, there's no place to sit outside. Earlier there were places to sit, but now there are kind of structures erected, and that has been happening around the city. What people call the hostile architecture under this council specifically.
I'll ask Mayor Nuttall to answer that question on libraries.
I try not to let Mina give his opinion about our council. If your question is with relation to what we're going to do in spaces that are meant to attract children to, the answer is we're going to make them as comfortable for our young people to attend as possible, and we're going to try to create an environment where there's not individuals who could be harmful in that instance. That is what we practiced at Queen's Park last year. by reducing the amount of brush there, by opening up the space, removing the bleachers, taking away places where needles and other types of debris that could be harmful to children would be left. Sadly, closing the washrooms because of the safety issues related there. And the same's true of our library. This is a place where children from around the city can go to read, go to learn. In fact, my own 2 children, after COVID, went there for some extra tutoring as we were coming back into the classroom. And we need to make sure that the spaces that we've created to attract children to are the safest they could possibly be. And that does mean ensuring that there are things that are going to dissuade individuals who are openly using drugs from hanging around those specific places. In terms of what the council said and what I said, and I think it was fairly comprehensive across our council team, maybe there was a couple of outliers, but we have asked the county and the library to work together to ensure that if there's individuals who are at risk, who are in need of help, that walk into the library, that there's an individual there to help get them into services, get them into care. I think that all makes sense. It can't be a call to the police every time. It's got to be focused on how do we help an individual? How do we provide the supports? How do we create the avenues so these individuals aren't in these types of situations anymore? And so we're very thankful that the county stepped up, funded the request from the Barrie Public Library, and they were the right organization to do it, as they are provincially responsible for social services here in the city of Barrie. What we didn't want to do is to step out any more with regards to adopting responsibilities that we don't have the legal responsibility or right to deal with. And that's why you saw when we funded that $1.65 million, most of that money is being invested through the County of Simcoe, because they are the partner that's responsible for these social services, and they've stepped up to help the library in this scenario.
Just a quick question there. What exactly? So I understand that the library has a community outreach worker now. I'm guessing that's the funding or the person that you're talking about. How can that be used when most of the people who are homeless are not allowed in the library? Most of them are banned at this time, so they can't even access that resource. How can they access it?
And I have to be pretty blunt here, right? There was an individual who was banned at the library, came to City Hall, and ended up leaving one of our security cards in the hospital. That's not an individual I want sitting beside my children when they're reading a book. It's just not. And so the reality is that these spaces that are designed to attract children need to be able to protect those same children that are there. Now, there are services that are available for individuals in the community who are, obviously experience mental health issues. Sometimes it's addiction. Sometimes it's a high stress matter that's just happened and it's brand new and no one knows about it yet. And Mina and his team have a robust set of funding as well as different services available. CMHA, we've got the Busby Centre, the Gilbert Centre. We funded a warming and cooling centre through that money and through the county to ensure there are spaces for individuals to be able to go. So I don't think it's a question of should someone just be able to go to the library or not. It's a question of what services are available in the community for that individual who's experiencing that type of issue at that time. And I don't believe the same places where our children are hanging out is the right place to be going. I'll go to the next question here. You had your hand up there, sir. So this is our last question, and this is to you, sir. You had your hand up there before.
Yeah, so my son goes to the library as well, quite often. We live very, very close to the library, and he sees people there, and then the curiosity among the kids is what is being done to help, and isn't this the case? Has been and I have been observing in many council meetings that due to one incident, a lot of the same people have been painted on using the same brush. So one incident, which all the person ended up in the city hall and ended up hurting the security guard. But then so many people are banned, and I experience, other people experience, at the city hall. When I went there as a city council meeting, I was told that council is closed on the day of the meeting, and then other people was going inside. I reached out to you for the question. I did not get the response. So this is police chief mentioned about this. I asked him the last year that the profiling, the racial profiling of the people, due to the increased presence of the police. We see here most of the police officers, police teams are white. Like, how can you ensure that the minorities will still feel safe, given there are past instances where the inquiries had not been sufficiently done?
A couple of things before the chief answers that. Number one, Arif Khan is here, a member of our police services board. I was supposed to introduce him after I came back up to the microphone. I don't believe for 1 second that addictions and mental health issues have a racial profile. They affect people across society. And it's important that we as a society, as a community, recognize that. There needs to be, certainly there's going to be specialized services for some individuals in certain places, and I agree with that. But there's everybody across our society knows somebody who's experiencing these types of issues, and they want to help the same way that our council does, the same way the county and the BIA and the police service want to help. The idea that there's racial profiling when it comes to providing supports in our community, if true, would be very disturbing, number one. Number two, when we're speaking about the library, the library is governed by a separate board. And that board gives the power to an executive director to ensure that it is a safe place for individuals in the community, whether it's your child or mine, to be able to go to. And they make very difficult decisions. And my description that I'll give you of the library, I would not view the executive director of the library or the board as individuals who would ever want to harm somebody who's going through very difficult mental health addictions or other circumstances. I view them as very caring, compassionate people. And if they've made the decisions on some individuals, I believe that it would be in order to protect those other people who are attending the library, whether it's our downtown, our Dean Avenue, or down at Mapleton in the South End. Thank you, and I'm going to pass it over to the chief right now to answer your...
I heard from the library and other people in the community that library has been very open and receptive place, so I'm not arguing with that. My argument is there is a pressure from the council on the library to cut the social services, stop people from entering the library, making the architecture more hostile to people. That's my argument. There's a pressure from you and from the council right from the beginning against the library, and that has featured into you cutting the budget of the library at the same time increasing the budget of the police department.
Well, that's not accurate, but I will say this. We actually have a member of the Public Library Board here, Councillor Nagusi, who's behind me. I know they make very difficult decisions. In terms of where we as a city have made requests, we've made the request to the County of Simcoe. Right now, there's an ongoing audit to make sure that the dollars provided by the City of Barrie are meeting the need on the ground in the City of Barrie through the County of Simcoe. We made that same request to the Barrie Public Library. We've made that request to the Barrie Police Services Board, who ended up, returning, I can't remember the dollar amount.
This morning?
No, well, what was this morning?
96,000.
Sorry? $296,000 to City Hall, and last year? $1.1 million. So there isn't a special case for one service over another. Everybody's being held to the same account. We want to know that every dollar that the hard-working people of Barrie put into City Hall, and then we contract out to other services in the community is being used to the top degree to help individuals in our community who are hurting. And we expect that no matter who it is. In terms of the cutting of the position for social services, in terms of the library and providing somebody there to help coordinate, that was a position that was requested to be paid by the city of Barrie. We went to the county and said, County, you're sitting behind the representatives from the Barrie Public Library right now in that physical meeting. Could you two folks just talk? Because that might actually yield some positive results. And guess what? Our council was right. It did yield great results because we now have that individual employed and in place. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't see very many solutions proposed at all to the issues that our city is facing in terms of safety concerns. If the mayor wanted to, he could have announced his support for a supervised consumption site in the city. We know that our friends, our neighbors, our family members are dying at an alarming rate due to the toxic drug crisis, and we need harm reduction services to save people's lives and connect them to vital services. He could have taken a stance in support of a supervised consumption site. He didn't. Instead, he pointed fingers, he painted with a broad brush, demonizing people who need support in our community, and I think that's not what the residents of Barrie deserve. He also talked about magic mushroom dispensaries being a safety issue in the downtown. That's not an issue I've ever heard anyone talk about as a safety issue, so I find it odd that he's focused on that. He should be instead investing in housing and supports for people. That's what addresses true safety in our community, and instead he demonized people who are living in poverty and living in homelessness, and it's frankly a waste of taxpayer resources to continue to send police and security after vulnerable people who need support and compassion. Well, I think it's clear that Mayor Nuttall and City Council are using the police as a public relations tool to demonstrate that it looks like they're doing something when they aren't actually doing anything to address the root causes of the issue. We know for a fact that increased police funding does not lead to less crime or more safety. So we need to actually invest in the root causes of crime and the root causes of those safety issues if we want to actually move the needle and protect people in our community. And that's not what they're doing. They're sending more police out onto the streets, which actually increase the harms in our community. It could increase the number of overdoses of toxic drug poisonings in our downtown. It can increase the criminalization of vulnerable people, which leads to more harm and more crime in the long run. It's a counterproductive approach, and it's an approach that actually costs taxpayers a lot more money than if we were to invest in those prevention services, support services, housing for people, to get people off the streets and into a safe, secure place to call home. That is what actually solves these issues, and that's not what the city announced today. Well, I think we know for a fact that increased police funding does not equal more safety for people, and it actually can increase harms and increase discrimination against Indigenous people, Black people, and people of color. We know that Indigenous people, Black people, and people of color face disproportionate police violence and criminalization, which causes harm in our communities. We know that increased police presence actually can lead to more toxic drug poisonings and death in our community. So by investing in more police, by putting more police presence on our streets, we're actually going to be increasing harms to people in our community, making people less safe. So it's counterproductive, it is a waste of taxpayer dollars, and it does nothing to address the root causes of these issues. We need to support people with compassion. Like, imagine if you're someone living on the street and you don't have a place to call home, you don't have a roof over your head, you don't have something to eat that day, and you're faced with criminalization and demonization instead of a helping hand. Imagine what that must do to your self-esteem, to your sense of dignity. It's hurtful, it's counterproductive, and it's the wrong approach.
I'm happy to hear that there's a focus on safety. And I'm happy to hear that there is talk of engagement with social services, not just police, BIA, those sorts of parties. I am concerned that there were no social services that were asked to participate in today's press conference, the ones who are participating. I'm concerned that there were no social services who were asked to attend the press conference. I'm not sure how genuine that conversation is if those social services are not being invited to the press conference. I'm also really concerned that there was no conversation about how people who are experiencing homelessness, who are using drugs, are going to be kept safe. There was a lot of discussion about safety as a whole. But one of the things that we know is happening right now, one of the biggest safety concerns in our community in Simcoe, Muskoka, and Barrie particularly, is the amount of overdose deaths we're seeing as a result of unregulated and toxic drug supply in our communities. I mean, death is probably one of the worst safety concerns I can think of, and I didn't hear any conversation about what harm reduction measures we're looking at putting into place. I didn't hear any conversation of the CTS application or the SCS application, and how anyone around the table in terms of that press conference are going to be supporting
You're referring
that.
to the safe consumption side.
The safe consumption site, yes, sorry. So the CTS, the Community Treatment Services, through the provincial government, or more broadly known as SCSs, which are supervised consumption sites. And so we know there was a lot of conversation about data-informed practices and evidence-based approaches. We know through data and evidence that supervised consumption sites save lives. They reduce social disorder, especially where there's already a high amount of public drug use, often as a result of homelessness. We know that that evidence is available, and unfortunately I didn't hear any conversation about that.
That was one of the questions you wanted to ask.
That was one of the questions I wanted to ask. I know we saw just recently, March 31st, Sudbury, who, like Barrie, had received federal approval but not provincial approval. So the federal approval allows for the exemption to the criminal law, and the provincial application allows for the funding of the SES. And so while we're all waiting for the financial aspect to be supported, there are communities who have allowed and supplied financial resources to communities to be able to enact supervised consumption sites. We saw that in Sudbury. Unfortunately, they weren't able to continue, and as a result, since March 31st to today, what date are we? May 23rd, there have been an unprecedented amount of overdose deaths as a result of the closure of that SES. And so there is a provincial rally that's going to be happening at Queen's Park in Toronto on May 28th that we are endorsing because we need support, we need commitment to real safety, we need commitment to saving people's lives, and those lives include people who use drugs. And so we're hopeful that talk of community, talk of social services, talk of safety means that we can begin to have some of these conversations, but I am apprehensive until I see action behind those words.
And one thing Mayor mentioned was everybody is equally affected by the drug crisis.
So I think that I don't want to make it seem like any group is more likely to use drugs because there's something inherent about that group using drugs. What we know, though, is that problematic substance use and substance use that people, they themselves may not want to continue to participate in, but do for coping, for a lack of medical health access, those kinds of things, are impacted directly by racialized communities. So we know that racialized communities are more likely to experience social isolation in communities, and that has a direct connection to problematic substance use in community. And so I do think it was pretty disingenuous or maybe just uninformed to say that there is no connection to racialized, specifically Indigenous community. We see a lot because of the impacts of colonization and intergenerational trauma. We do see an increased use of substance use, and we see an increase we see more homelessness and houselessness in communities because of how those communities have directly been isolated, how those communities have had their resources and access to opportunities removed based on those racial identities. And so I think to say that there is no connection was disingenuous at best. I didn't actually have any expectations coming into this. I just found out about it at 8 o'clock last night, something like that. And so I honestly didn't have many expectations. I wish that there would have been conversation and talk of commitment to harm reduction practices. I wish that there had been more realistic measures to address the housing crisis, even from a bylaw perspective of how people are able to access safety and deeply affordable, meaningfully affordable housing in our community. While I think that the Rose Street initiative is a great start, it is nowhere, there are not going to be near enough units to address the amount of homelessness and houselessness that we're seeing. So I wish that there had been more conversation on that and more meaningful action taken so that we can address houselessness and homelessness, which is the root cause of the social disorder that people are concerned about.
Yeah, so just a couple of questions. One is about the encampment. There's an encampment at Milligan's Park and some other location in Barrie due to lack of housing.
Yeah.
So I asked Mayor about his approach, and he said it's County of Simcoe that would take the decision. So what is the approach of County of Simcoe towards that?
So our encampment approach is we work closely with bylaw when they identify an encampment. The bylaw engages our funded outreach, our funded homelessness outreach teams to go out there and try to engage and see if the people could be referred to services and offered supports, as we discussed earlier, if they need certain survival supports like water, food, basic needs, and try to build relationships with them to encourage them to come inside and access services and access housing. Something we've done more recently is we've tried to empower housing-focused discussions, including offering of those deep subsidies I'd mentioned, so that they're incentivized to engage the system in order to focus on housing outcomes. We need that engagement to happen first before any enforcement is coordinated, and there has to be relevant and genuine offers of options. So, for example, if you're offering someone to come inside to use a shelter, the shelter space has to be appropriate to the person's needs. If they're, for example, disabled and there isn't an accessible space, then that offer doesn't qualify. That's what the case law and the recent case law kind of lends us and instructs us to do. So we are following kind of like the the legal requirements currently right now and awaiting legislative guidance. So yeah, it's a coordinated effort. We built a best practice out of South Simcoe, which has been working very well, between outreach and bylaw enforcement and community safety ambassadors, all working together to ensure that the person is getting the adequate referral to come inside, access space and services. So that's the approach.
Is there a liaison, county liaison with the encampments, Milligan Pass or any other?
No, because so the county of Simcoe does not directly offer services. So we are a funder. So we fund, our liaison would be the funded agency. In Barrie, it's Busby and New Haven that do the outreach. But no, the county of Simcoe does not attend because its role is not a service provider. Its role is a service manager, and that's a legislative role.
Yeah, and just one more thing about the. I talked to many community leaders and residents of Barrie that there has been during the recent the new council under Mayor Alex Nuttall, the approach has changed towards working with the county of Simcoe, and then there is a more pressure to heavy-handed approach towards the homelessness, or the library is one of the example that has been stated of what's going on, the pressure.
Yeah.
I believe you were at the library
Yes.
past week.
Yeah, I will speak to what I know and not what people say. So I've been here only for a year and a half, and Mayor Nuttall and the new administration were already elected, so I have nothing to compare it to. But I will tell you this, the only thing that's changed for the city of Barrie and the county of Sydney is additional funding. A significant amount of that 11 million, over 50% of it came to the city of Barrie. So for me, if you're asking about what's changed, if that's the answer, if that's the question, the answer is more funding for more agencies to address the issues that are needed here in Barrie. And you're welcome to go to open.simcoe.ca to check out the data on those points. In terms of the library, the Barrie Library wasn't the only library we funded. We actually funded 4 libraries around the county through a call for proposals, asking for similar services. And it all started with a community symposium in Midland, where that was a raised issue of concern of how do we engage people and offer them referral support in places they're at, including libraries. So for me, having a human resource, a community navigator, working with people, welcoming them into the library, connecting with them on housing outcomes is an absolute good resource to have. In terms of how the library enforces who comes and who goes, that's not our privy, and nor, as the mayor said, it's really the library board that makes, and library operations that makes those decisions. How they're funded them on a pilot program, $80,000 for the library here in Barrie. We're going to measure how that worked, what was the impact, how many referrals were made, how many people got onto housing paths, and that will inform what we do next with that program in the following years.
It's just one last question that you said you have been here 1.5 years.
Yeah.
So how has been that transition? Where were you before, and how is it working?
Yeah, I've worked in the area. I've worked in different service manager roles across different parts of Ontario, Regional Waterloo, City of Toronto, Community Housing, and here. So I find the transition to be, very similar to other communities, to be honest with you. Lots of good work, lots of great community agencies and partners, good municipal partners and municipal members. Upper tier is a little different than single tier service manager roles, but certainly optimistic that there's a lot of opportunity to do really good work here.